They're like, I want to grow a follower account because they assume that if they grow a follower account, they can just make a post about a membership and they're going to get a million clients coming into the door.
You could go to a thrift store right now and look at a picture from the Grand Canyon 100 years ago, and I saw one that was for sale for $140. The things just get more valuable because as things from the past get further and further and further away from us, the more we wish.
Not just more valuable, but artists and photography is probably the best example of branding because you could find a picture that you find so valuable. Like, you could find a picture of the Grand Canyon and never been to Arizona and been like, "Wow, like, I've never been there, I want" and it
Right.
could be worth to you $10,000 where another person, it's like, "Oh, I live in the canyon, I don't want that picture."
Right.
So,
That's a good example.
you have the ability to, that's where personal branding, and I think musicians and, mostly famous painters and designers were the ones that where value really came from because Mona Lisa's priceless now,
Oh my
right?
god, yeah. You don't call a Ferrari, it's just a Ferrari. It's just a Lamborghini. It's just a really nice house. You always just assign it basically, that's a Ferrari. You know what I mean? But if I'm like, "This is just a coffee cup," not very valuable. It's just a coffee cup. This is just a water bottle. This is it could be just a table to some people, but it's like a $1,500 table. It's a table. It's so the word just when you're trying to sell to people or convey value, well, I'm just gonna do this, and I'm just gonna do that, and I'm just gonna do this. It kinda, like, devalues you a little bit. We use that word
Mm.
just a lot. Now, if you're trying to make it seem like not a big deal to get people's guard down or not make them seem so committed to where it's like, "Hey, look, it's just a 30-minute phone call, no commitment." Like, you're you're not, like, you're, what's the word I'm looking for here? You're making it seem like less of a big deal to where their guard's not so high, or it doesn't seem like such a commitment. Like, "Hey, it's just a 30-minute call. We'll see if things work out. No commitment, blah, blah, blah." But when it comes to your product or your services, it's not, "Oh, I'm just a photographer. Oh, I'm just a painter. Oh, I'm just a kickboxer. Oh, I'm just" you know what I'm saying? It kinda devalues a little bit. So I thought it was really interesting. Um, that really, really resonated with me. Really.
Oh, yeah, you could say, "Oh, I capture memories," or I capture for weddings, it's like, I capture an event that I actually know a videographer that's in my association, and he has 2 audiences. So he does do weddings, but he also does something on the commercial side. So, he did weddings at first like you're planning on doing, not you doing weddings, but doing the, B2C
Yeah,
side.
seaside, yeah.
And then he's like, the difference is he's like, the process is funny enough, are very similar. The difference is commercial companies they can put a value to, "Oh, are these pictures going to make a sale for me?" Like,
Mhm.
is there gonna be something in here that can make a difference between us? So it's like, yeah, you just have to find that value proposition, the proposition of your value within what you do. It's like, we capture great memory. We capture one in a lifetime memories or something like that,
Yeah.
you know? And that's basically branding and marketing put together. That's the synergy. But one thing I wanted to get back to, which I thought was funny when you were talking about where you're at in your life right now, was I was 26 when I had my first rebrand period. Like, my first real, like, things need to change, in my
Mm.
life. And so I thought it was an interesting correlation because I think that and I don't know if it's a male thing or if it's just there's just 2 of us it's happened to,
I
but
heard it is a lot of male things that it's in the 20s that a lot of
probably
things
late
change.
20s, right?
It is, yeah, because that's when our bodies are changing the most because after 25, your brain stops growing, and you switch from chasing girls to career. So, between 25 and, like, 32, I think they say, you switch more into career. Women at 25 switch more from career to family. So
Interesting.
they flip. The women are chasing the family in their 30s, and the men are chasing the careers. Yeah.
And mine that happened last year, I can put that up to midlife crisis. Like, that's usually what happens in the late 30s, right? It's like, "Oh, well,
Oh, shit.
I've got" No, I didn't have that. It was just more so, "Okay, I got the career now.
Where do we go from here?
Where do you go from here?" Like,
I see.
it's that I think there's an ever-ending cycle where it's like, "Alright, well, I can make another 1 to 2,000,000, but once I make that, what's gonna happen? I'm gonna
Hesitation?
no, am I well, once I get to 3,000,000 or 4,000,000, then what? I'm gonna wanna get to 10? I
Yeah,
wanna get to 20? Then
yeah,
I make a million I make a billion. Okay, well, then what? I'm gonna want it's infinity. So it's like
yeah.
there has to be a gratification point where you have to put a
Enough is
stat
enough.
enough is enough. But back when you're yeah, 26, yeah. Funny enough, my wife and I broke up at around that time and, for like 10 months, and it was like probably I always tell everyone, I'm like, one of the most crucial times of my life, like the worst feeling,
Mhm.
but I look back at it, I'm like, it needed to happen because it
Yep.
was a time when I was like, "Oh, hey, like, this is the one first time in my life that I'm actually physically alone." Like, before that, it was, you know, college, I always had roommates. I always, at college and before that, I lived with my parents, so, you never really have a time when you're 100% alone, and I didn't, and so I had that 10 months of, find myself now in my career, and I jet was she left me the day before I started working for the Suns, and so it was probably I don't think they liked me too much. First impressions are definitely a thing.
Oh, so she left you the day before?
Yeah, the day before. Oh, and
The energy walking in that is rough,
I went
man.
out and
Oh,
went out and got hammered the night
oh,
before,
yeah, yeah.
because I was so messed up, and
You're
so
trying to just suppress those
I went
feelings.
to work. I think I've had 2 hours of sleep. Stayed up until like 4 and then woke up at 6. I was still pretty drunk when I went in. Um, but if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have decided, "Hey, like, I'm past the party phase of my life." I cut out drinking completely. I started going to the gym. I just said one day, I'm done, and I just decided I didn't want in my life anymore, and then I started going to the gym every day and finding my health in that way, and so that was my first real spot, and we talk about energy, and we talk about how things lead to certain things, like, my path at that time was athletes, but the gym was actually the thing that got me past that first period.
Mm,
It's also the thing that got me past it is getting me past the second period. Like, if I didn't start going back to the gym and connecting back with myself and finding that connection, I wouldn't have gone in there and been like, "Wow, these are the people I wanna help." Like, this is it. Like, this is, you know,
yeah,
um, and yeah, and at the same time, it's not like I'm completely, like, obsessed with it anymore. I'm not like a
yeah.
personal trainer or like I never wanted to do competitions. I was always just mental health
Mhm.
situations. So, yeah, at that time, that was it, man, and I, went 10 months at the Suns, and then I had a couple other jobs before I went out on my own, but first it was that time when she left me, and I just thought it was a funny correlation because I was in the same boat. I was like, "Ah, I'd find myself. What do I wanna do?" I think I started boxing at that time too.
Yeah.
So I took up boxing. Um, I was doing dude, I was crazy. I was doing boxing, I think 3, 4 times a week. I was hitting there was times when I would do a double sesh. I would do, like, the gym, and then I'd go to boxing, and boxing is all endurance, right? So it was like it was hard. I do that, and then I got back into soccer because when I was younger, I played soccer to be like my dad as a kicker,
Yeah.
so I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna start doing indoor and outdoor soccer again." So I was literally playing 2 to 3 games a week. So I was literally that's all I was doing for, like, 10 months is all athletics. It was crazy.
Just hitting it hard. But, I've seen a correlation with successful people like yourself is, obsessive behavior.
I'm an all or nothing guy.
Right, and
Mhm.
I think, like, Joe Rogan said this, you said this, I know I have an obsessive behavior. They told me that in the video games, like, when I was playing the video games, like, dude, I would play 14 hours a day, I didn't stop. It just I'm so obsessive about stuff, and I think that's like a double-edged sword, because you can run into burnout and you can really wear yourself out, I think, on one thing because you just don't kinda take some time to smell the roses, as they say. I think but it's better to be like that than just be lazy, sit around the house.
Well, and that was funny enough when I started bringing the gym back in. So I I was on keto. I did keto for like 2 years straight. I was in ketosis for like 2
I
years.
only tried it for, like, 3 months.
And it was, well, the first time I did it was a month. The second time I did it was 3 months. The third time is when I really did it. It wasn't dirty keto. It was all clean keto. The whole point is I watched my macros like crazy. So I was literally like when I was bulking, I was eating, 300 grams of carbs, 180 grams of protein, 40 to 60 grams of fat like a day. And so when I got back into working out again, I started eating that way again. But I couldn't necessarily go to the gym 6 days a week anymore because I have children. Like I
Right.
was at a point. So that's been the hardest challenge for me being an all or nothing guy is
Balance,
it's
yeah.
like, I'm not all or nothing. I have to learn that it's okay to, still love doing something like that, but also understand that I can't be an all or nothing guy with my food right now because I'm gonna just get fat.
Yeah. It's like, it's for me, it's been waves of, when I was, like, 17 to, when I was, like, 11, 12, I got picked on a lot, and I wanted to prove myself, so I got really strong, and then I wore that out, and after 16 to, like, 19, I didn't wanna work out at all. I just had no motivation. Didn't wanna go to the gym at all. I had no motivation. And then from the time I was, like, 20 until I was, like, 23 or 24, I hit that shit hard.
Yeah.
Especially when I was trying out for pararescue, I was hitting that shit hard. And then the last couple of years, I've just been like, "Yeah, I guess I'll just work," you know? And, now I'm back in that cycle again. It's like the stock market, you know what I mean? You're just doing this the whole time, and I'm back in that cycle where I wanna be really active and around people, and I think that, like you said, that, there's, like, certain things that happen in your life that trigger change. I think for me, that panic attack was it, man, because I was like, "Jesus Christ," like, if that would have been it, if that would have been all of that stress would have been pointless.
Yeah.
Right, like, it would've been pointless, and the only thing I thought about was my family at that last moment. So, if I thought I was dying and I really felt like I was, it was terrifying, for, like, a week after that, I was like, "Please, don't let that happen again." I was, like, scared, I was a little bitch a little bit about it because I was like it was just terrifying. But then, I realized, like, okay, if family is what I thought about in that moment, that's must be what's most important to me. Kinda brought out that. So that should be my focus. What I'm trying to get really good at now or trying to work on it is when I do stuff, I don't do it too long. Like, if I play a video game, I'll play for, like an hour or 2, and I get off. And if I go to work on the computer, I'll do it for a couple hours, and then I'll go out and do some errands, or I'll go on a walk, or I'll walk the dog. Like, I'm trying to get better at breaking up patterns, like habits, you know what I mean? To where the day is more broken up with and it keeps things fresh, it keeps things exciting, it doesn't make things get to a point I think it's like when you're a kid and you play with a toy too long, gets bored, you're like, "Fuck that toy, I don't want that." You throw it away, you never touch it
Yeah.
again. It's the
Well,
same thing, you know? You
and
just
I
wear something out.
and I think that what you're saying is exactly it's easy to come back up because, you're making me think of when I first started. I mean, I started when I quit the corporate world, I saved up like 30 grand over a 7-year period. So I saved a cushion. I was smart about it, but I'm like, I have 1 year, right? And I luckily enough had this gig that I got from my wife's friend that was like, oh, someone's looking for someone to do. And this is where I got into digital marketing, right? Where he's like, I just need someone to do some digital marketing for $35 an hour, which back then for me, I was like, that was $2,000 a month off of the hours he gave me. And I I survived off it. I literally lived off of what he paid me for, I think 6, 7 months, and then I got my first friend out of a referral, a first client, which is still my client today. That
That's
client,
awesome.
well, he pays me the most out of all of our
That's
clients,
awesome.
funny enough. Um, and it just built over time, but I remember, like, I would because when I was in the corporate world, it was very easy for me to manage my food intake. It was very easy because I was like, "Okay, I'm here. I wanna take a lunch." So I had my snacks and my lunch. And even in the corporate world, I was very rigorous. I was one of those people that would work all my teammates were in Florida, and so I even though I went to the building, all my teammates were in Florida, so, um, I literally worked like 5, 6 hours, and I remember that for after that first 3 months, looking at the projects that were done, and I had twice as many in that time period as anyone. I think I had 180, and the closest one to me had like 105 projects done within the period of time, and I'm like, "I'm only fucking working 5, 6 hours here." I was working 5, 6 hours, very content, and then I'd go to the gym. I'd leave and go to the gym for the other 2 hours because I'm like, "What my boss doesn't know won't hurt him. My
Yeah.
production scores are up. Why would I even tell him I'm leaving early? No one will know." Until I finally left, but I remember that. I was very much at that place where I was like, "Oh, work." I just worked on the couch. I enjoyed it. I didn't really think about growth that much until I got that second client where I was like and I just sold, like, it was like a $1,500 job, and I was, like, counting the numbers, I'm like, I remember when I got that first 6 or 7. You're making me actually think about the nostalgia.
Yeah, the
'Cause
nostalgia.
now it's like now it's completely different, but, it's good to look back on that, but I was like that, and now, again, this last year, I had to bring that back because I think that can hit because I'm not at a back then, it was myself. Back then, it was like, "Oh, I have to do this myself." I did bring on a couple freelancers to do some smaller things for me as I got new clients, but it was nothing big, but now I'm in a completely different place. Now I'm in a place where my team is turning into, like, a team.
Mhm.
Like, it's more we have to have a vision. I'm trying to move away from delegating. It's very easy. So with what you're doing where you're like, "Oh, I'm testing waters, I'm doing B2C," I think that's very common, and I think it's needed because it's gonna help you see you're gonna learn all those mistakes. It's very similar to me, and I still have some of those clients right now, which are kind of probably holding me back a little bit, but they pay my bills. They're not all gyms,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I still learn. It's very similar concepts and structures of what I do. So back to what I was saying, yeah, like I think that that's a common thread multiple times as you evolve. Like it's okay that you're going to B a C, and then you'll get to a point that could last you years. I mean, it lasted me 6.
For a while. Hey, look, you want some more nostalgia, man? I worked with my, first ideal client a couple weeks. It was the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
Best feeling in the world. I mean, he called me up and, because I have 38,000 followers on Instagram, and I've only gotten 2 customers from it, okay? So, whatever people think about, like, social media is so oversaturated.
Let's talk about that, man.
You wanna talk about that?
Oh yeah.
It's so oversaturated at this point to where you just don't get. Unless, I mean, I could structure it a different way or brand it a different way or do something different or offers or something like that, but there's just so much content being pumped out there that it's really hard to get customers, and I know this, like, it really resonated with me when I met Fernando at Printing Solutions to print my business cards out, and hopefully they're done today. He said, "Look, brother, you don't need a good business card when you got a solid handshake and a clean look like yourself." He said, "Get out there and go sell yourself," right? And it really resonated with me. I'm like, "Well, everybody's telling me to go on social media and put all this stuff out, put it out, put it out, put it out, put it out." But even though people do feel a connection to me because they enjoy my videos, they're kinda heartwarming, they don't really get to see me much, and I'm not really there to talk to them. So I need to get out more. You know what I mean? It's kinda like, I'm not gonna compare myself to Elon Musk, but what I'm saying, like, the example of, actions-wise, Elon Musk has become a politician. Almost, to where he's not really running the business a lot. The behind the scenes, he's doing podcasts, he's doing conferences, he's doing phone calls, he's meeting people, he's networking, he's all the time just he's a handshake person, you know what I mean? At this point, and I think that, like, we need more of that today and less of the social media stuff, just getting out there and meeting people.
We do, and the reason I wanna bring it up is because I when you told me you had 38,000, you said 38,000, right?
38,000, yeah.
And you're like, "I've gotten 2 clients from it." I'm like, "Yeah,
Amazing.
that sounds about right." I mean, because when I work with professional athletes, for instance, I get this all the time. They're like, "I wanna grow a social following," and I'm like, "Why?" Most of it was vanity, that's one of the reasons I quit because I was like, I'm not here to help your vanity, I'm here to grow a business if you have a business, right?"
Right,
I mean, I'd rather get you 1,000 followers and get you 10 clients and get you 1,000,000 followers and 10 clients.
right.
Like that's and so because the internet is so saturated, and this is why I made the cringe moment earlier about digital marketers when they talk about, "Oh, you just need to go on and you need to do this or you need to do that." It's like it's not about referrals. It's like, no, the whole point of social media and Google and all of it, all online was about communication and building relationships. It's what it's
Networking.
for, connection. And so when I have clients that come to me and they say, "I want you to do a social media," and that's why we're cutting out social media from our offerings because it's like,
Really?
yeah, I don't,
Wow.
I
It's not I'm not saying really I doubt you, but I'm just saying, like, it's kind of nice and refreshing to hear it a little bit because, like, what you're saying is, like, it's spot on. It's just so oversaturated that
well, it's not just oversaturated. It doesn't bring any very little ROI. I always put social media in the prospect of, okay, of course, there's paid versus organic, right?
mhm,
Organic social media, just posting, should be done for one thing, and I still post myself, on LinkedIn. I stopped really focusing on Facebook or Instagram because it's not really my thing. You know, I have a YouTube channel that I have about 5K followers on YouTube, like, not a lot, but I'm past the subscriber amount of even getting monetized, right? And so I'm monetized. I think I have about 350K views overall from the period I've had it. So,
Mhm.
but I'm more of a niche. So I purposely don't try not to, it's hard not to, but care about
It's
the
tough on
numbers.
your
Yeah.
like, can we talk about that for a second? Is the psychological effects of running a social media page yourself
Mhm.
is it is mentally and physically draining. I have a website, a really nice website I built on WordPress. It took like 40 hours to build it. Love that website. Beautiful. It doesn't drain me at all, man. Like I got it up there. It's like it's nice. But Instagram does. It
Yeah.
really drains me. And I'm not about appearances. I'm not about artificial shit and you're you know who and like that. I'm not about that. But Instagram kind of brings that out of you a little bit because that's the culture on it
Mhm.
is how many followers do you have? So it's a social credit. It's a social credit
It's a
platform.
credit, and I think people have gotten past, the 2 things I've seen is, well, 3 things. 1, the worst case of it, it's become transactional.
Yeah.
It's helped society think of life as a transactional situation. I'm gonna text you, I'm gonna DM you. We won't even talk about the DMs I've seen in my in my professional athletes accounts, um you know, how much is your service? How let me hire me. Let me do this. It's all about that now. 2 is because like a platform like Instagram spent billions of dollars finding the psychological dopamine things of how you can do something, you think it's easy. People just think that it's easy. Just like photography in a phone that has a camera, they think, "Oh, I can do photography." It's a similar concept. It's lowered the standard of creativity because people think that they're now can do everything.
Oh, you really just like triggered a thought in my head about maybe that's why the return on like the ROI is so low on social media because it's just it's essentially just a drug and it's not
It's It in a way is. People don't Instagram itself is not a place like, for weddings, maybe, if it's B2C, like, yes, you could probably use it, and people have,
mhm,
and it's great when you have visual type situations to use it as a portfolio.
sure.
Um, I'll use my Instagram for more show "Hey, we're just gonna show every once in a while." Like, I don't have that many followers, about 1,600, but, I mean, I think I tried once to really grow it, and then I was like,
It's just not worth it though. I mean, like you're talking about, I Ryan Ayler, back to he does the mortgages. He has 6K on Facebook. That dude has made so many sales and has so many active people in his Facebook. It's insane because the way he is really focused on who he has and who he caters to, and
"Mm,
he's really like building the connection there. Um, yeah, and this is what bugs me is people are, oh, you have 38K followers. I'm like, yeah, you know, it's only 38 'cause, "Oh, don't be so humble." I'm like, "I'm not being humble. I'm just telling you it's not worth it, dog. It's just not it's
well."
you know what I mean? It's one thing I've learned about it, though, is it can help with credibility. If somebody doesn't know you,
Yes.
they see it, they're like, "Oh, okay, he has this many followers, he's probably credible then," right? Like, it helps with that. But there's so many other ways you can do it
But
that
why that's the funny thing is that people look at it as a credibility thing, but it's like, but you're a photographer, so unless they're looking at your photos, why does it matter?
Sure, exactly. Like, the credibility is in the
Eh,
product
that's
itself, you can
really
see
what
it.
it's funny because that's our YouTube channel, like, yes, I have to use it I like to use it as credibility, and people look at it as credibility, like, "Oh, he must know what he's doing," but I'm like, "But do I? Because I
Right,
could have easily gone on there and bought a million fakes."
right.
I've actually seen companies I actually had a prospect come into me once, large co I mean, they weren't large, they were looking they got investments from, like, Richard Sherman, all these athletes, and I was looking at they're like, "We need something to do our social media," and I was looking at through their account, and I'm like, "Hey, you have 1,000,000.2 followers and you got 10 likes on this post?" I'm like, "Something's wrong," so I went in and I'm like, all fake profiles."
Uh-huh.
I'm like I asked him, I'm like, "Why do you have all fake?" And this happens a lot in the music industry too, funny enough, and they don't even care. But, they buy fake followers and they're like, "Oh, the investors." It's like, Richard Sherman, the investors don't care." They don't not that they don't care, they don't know. It's like they don't know, they just see 1,000,000 followers and
Yeah,
they
they'll
assume,
look into
so
it.
they'll give us the money.
Is it they do it for
Everyone does
promoting
it.
reasons?
Everyone does it, and it's a simple psychological thing too, back to your 38,000, is they think that you you personally have 38,000 subscribers or followers, and so you are the type of person that makes a lot of money because you have enough people backing you that you know how to make money. It's like a
Right.
weird.
It is, and it's not at
But it's
all
not,
true. It's not at
because
all true.
it was same thing I tell the athletes is I'm like, "It's not about your follower count." Like, all those accounts, I don't know how you got those, but 99% are probably from friends and family and people that you know and you've connected with, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that 38,000 people are your buyers.
Mhm.
Maybe you have one business in there that you're trying to reach in that account, and that's why you got 2 sales from it, because there's 2. So again, it's just another form of collecting people, just like a newsletter, basically just like a newsletter, just like a contact list. If you built a contact list, very similar concept, just a different medium. The only difference is that Instagram, you can throw pretty images up.
Yeah.
I'm a LinkedIn guy all the way. Like,
I gotta get on LinkedIn because LinkedIn's where business happens. It's kinda the same thing with Pinterest for women. Women go to Pinterest to buy stuff. They go for outfits and decor and stuff like that, but LinkedIn is where it's at for business, and that's what I wanna get more into now, because that's a big trap that a lot of young people like myself, and especially youngins, I say youngins I consider like 16 to 21, fresh into college, fresh out of high school, youngins. Um, is social media. They fall into that trap, and for me, I got lucky, it just grew, and I was like, "Oh, this is taking off. I'll become successful over this," and I kept
well,
yeah,
it's not just your age. It's not just the
the
youngins.
older people as well.
Why do you think I stopped doing social media for clients? One one, it was because for internally, from a business perspective, if I wanted to do it right and bring the expectations that they thought that it was gonna give them, I had to pay a designer, I had to pay a copywriter, I
Mm,
had to pay someone to schedule. Of course, it's not gonna be my copywriter or designer because I pay them more than I would a scheduler. Like, for instance, I'll use a gym, for instance. I'll use a gym. They're like, "I wanna grow a follower account," because they assume that if they grow a follower account, they can just make a post about a membership
good to go.
and they're gonna get 1,000,000 clients
Nope,
coming into the door.
negative.